welcome back to the NFL Betting Show on FTN Network. Abby Labar, Mike Randle, and a special guest this week, Sam Choudhury. I can never say your last name. We practiced it like 25 times. I'm sorry, but I'm bad at that. You would think I would know how to pronounce names at this point, but we're grateful to have you on the show this week, Sam. Chris Meany will be back next week. Week 4 already in the NFL. Are you kidding me? I feel like time's flying by. But this is where it starts to get fun, guys. I feel like obviously, like early this season, we've seen a lot of injuries, not fun to witness. But we are starting to see some of these teams kind of find an identity of sorts. This is where it's no excuses time for a lot of these teams and organizations. What were some of the biggest things, biggest storylines that you guys liked this past weekend, Randall?
Yeah, the big surprise for me were the 3 underdogs that barked. I don't think we ever had a week where 3 underdogs won outright, all of 8 or more points. You had the 4 50-yard field goals by Matt Gay with the Colts upsetting the Ravens. You had the Texans absolutely destroying the Jaguars. We had fullbacks running back kicks on kickoffs for touchdowns. And then, of course, the big one, which our model here at FTN loved, shout out to Frank Brank with a 17% edge, Arizona to cover. Not only they cover, they beat the Cowboys outright here. Maybe the Cardinals are good. Aaron Schatz talked about this week on the article. Maybe they're actually good. I don't know, Abby.
They might be. I mean, if it wasn't for the Giants' comeback, they played pretty decently in the first half of that game. Sam, what'd you like?
Yeah, I think I'm with Randall. I mean, all those upsets, especially in one weekend, was pretty crazy to see. And we're only in week 3, and it's pretty insane how many season-ending injuries we already have. Obviously, me coming from the fantasy space, constantly making tweaks and stuff, just accounting for injuries. And I mean, it looks like it's getting a little bit better heading into the weekend. But yeah, every week it seems like we just have these superstars go down, and they're not minor injuries either. They're season enders. And I mean, it completely changed the landscape for a lot of teams.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, I'll tell you what, I had a lot of plays on Saturday for college football, and I went with a lot of underdogs. And let me tell you what, I should have done that on Sunday instead, because things did not go well for me on Saturday. Randall, I know things didn't necessarily go well for you on Sunday. I think Meany probably did the best last week, but that's why we love this show, because obviously we're not going to be perfect all the time. We were doing well to start, hit a little bit of a speed bump, but we're going to have some more fun this week. So we're going to start off with you, Sam. I know there's a game that you like, Bills, Dolphins. I've been high on the Dolphins a lot. We've talked about them a lot this show, and Tua and the offense and just everything that they've been able to do this season. That's going to be an exciting one. High scoring per se.
Yeah, so this is one that I really like. FanDuel every week they have odds for the highest scoring game on Sunday. And obviously, the game projected with the highest game total is up top. But I think plus 400 over here is really good value. In perspective, last week, the Vikings and Chargers were projected for the highest scoring game, and they were priced up at plus 250. And that's not the kind of line I want to take to bet on a single game being the highest scoring game on Sunday. But it seems like a pretty obvious spot to attack here. Obviously, both teams are first and second in points per game this season. They're one of 3 teams averaging over 30 points per game with the 49ers. And then I like to look at DVOA now that we have access to it at FTN. And the Bills are actually number 1 overall right now in total DVOA because they've been the more dominant team all around. And the total DVOA takes into account offense, defense, special teams. On the other hand, obviously, Miami just went off on offense, and they're number 1 in the NFL in offensive DVOA, sitting at 82, or they're 82.7% total DVOA, number 1 in offense, but their defense hasn't been nearly as strong as Buffalo, who's number 2 in defense, where Miami ranks 21st, and they're dead last on special teams. So I'm not really looking at the special teams, obviously, for scoring purposes. But yeah, Aaron Schatz called this the DVOA Bowl because of the matchup. We have currently the number 1 and number 2 teams in total DVOA facing each other. And Buffalo, they've been a top 5 offense every season since Allen's second year when he finally took that lead. And just looking at this season, Miami is one of 5 teams to have a 50+% DVOA in each of their first 3 games. They're 62.3% offensive DVOA entering week 4 is the highest charted ever. No other team has been above 60%. And they're number one in explosive play rate, which pretty much takes into account, or an explosive play rate is pretty much a 15 plus yard passing play and a 10 plus yard rushing play. We saw a lot of those last Sunday. And the Bills are, although they're third in defensive explosive rate play allowed, we've sort of seen their matchups. They haven't really been tested much. We saw them against Sam Howell last week. They saw one snap, of Aaron Rodgers and then faced Zach Wilson. So I think we're going to see the Buffalo defense get tested this weekend. And just looking at Miami, it doesn't look like anyone's stopping them. I already mentioned the only reason knocking Miami down below Buffalo and DVOA is their weakness on the offensive side of the ball. They're outside the top 20. So I'm expecting fireworks this game, and I think plus 400 is a great number, especially considering their 53.5 point total is 5.5 points higher than any other game on Sunday. So, yeah, I really like that value there.
That's amazing insight. I love all of that, Sam. Randall, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Sam is great at these. He hit one in week 1 somehow, and I put it out there. I couldn't believe it. Sam was a Chargers Dolphins, right? High scoring game in week 1. He got some ridiculous number on it. So this is a really underutilized, sort of under the radar market that Sam has identified here. Great call as always.
I love it. All right. This is a big one coming up. Ravens, Browns. Right now, the Browns, I think, have one of the best defense in the league in several categories. So a really big test for Lamar Jackson. Randall, you're going with this one this week?
Yeah, I am. Look, we're going right back to Lamar Jackson as a road underdog in week 4. He hit it for us at Cincinnati in week 2. We are 2 weeks removed. That was a plus 160 money line hit. I'll take the 2.5 with Jackson as quarterback. Ravens now 8-1 against the spread as a road underdog when he is under center. 4 outright wins. 4 outright wins in those 5 scenarios. In the last 5 scenarios, Harbaugh is great. Division underdog of a touchdown or less per Bet Labs, 12-6-1 against the spread with 8 outright wins. So we have a quarterback that does well on the road as an underdog. We have a great head coach when he's an underdog within the division who does well. And on the flip side, Abby, since 2003, Cleveland just 6-14. That's 30% against the spread as a home favorite. 2-5 in those situations under Kevin Stefanski. So to me, this is a prove-it game. This is a bet on John Harbaugh. This is a bet on a Ravens defense that is close to Cleveland's dominance. You talk about DVOA, which Sam did. Obviously, Cleveland's defense has been fantastic. Ravens are not too far behind. If you look at team DVOA, right now the Browns are 4th and the Ravens are 7th. So I think it's very, very close. And I like the Ravens here getting 2.5. I'm playing with the number. No, Nick Chubb is still going to affect them. Jerome Ford, very versatile. Amari Cooper, really the number 1 receiver there. I think Ravens do a good job. Low scoring game. I'll take the points. I'll take the Ravens.
Sam, I think you can argue against this one, huh?
Yeah, and I think Randall hit on a lot of great points, especially taking into account DVOA. This is another great DVOA matchup with 2 top 8 teams. And I'm just going to touch on how dominant Cleveland has been this season. Currently, they're number 4 in total DVOA, behind the 2 teams we mentioned in Buffalo and Miami. And San Francisco is 3rd, so they're 1 spot ahead of Philly now. And after last week, we talked about the upset with Arizona upsetting Dallas. That pretty much bumped Cleveland as currently the number 1 ranked defensive DVOA right now. Their defense is minus 48.2% in DVOA. So through 3 weeks, they've only allowed 1 offensive touchdown, which was against Pittsburgh on Monday night, the one that George Pickens blew off for a long one. But through weeks 1 through 3, they're allowing a league low 3.2 yards per play. Their defense as a whole ranks top 10 in touchdowns allowed, sack rate, pressure rate, passing EPA per dropback allowed. So it's been dominant. And to put it into perspective, they've given up 21 total first downs this season, which is 20 fewer than the Bills, who are the next lowest. And Randall mentioned Ravens are, I think he said you got Ravens at 7. They're between 7 and 8 in total DVOA. And a lot of that is boosted by their offense. They're just outside the top 10, number 11 in offense. And they're number 5 overall in defensive DVOA. But one thing that Aaron mentioned in his DVOA article, we're not taking into account the strength of opponent they face. So yeah, you see that number 5 number, but then you take into consideration their first game was in CJ Stroud's debut, Joe Burrow with the broken Bengals offense, and then Gardner Minshew last week who upset them. So I'm not really buying into the Ravens where they rank as a whole, looking at the whole DVOA perspective. And I mean, Cleveland hasn't had the greatest matchups either, but I think I'm sort of buying into the strength of their defense more. And yeah, they lost Nick Chubb, but I think the injuries are mounting on even more on Baltimore. And they were decent in the first half against Indianapolis, but you sort of saw with their lack of offensive weapons, even their secondary is falling apart. Gardner Minshew wasn't really able to test it, but even though I think Watson isn't who we've seen in the past in Houston, I think he is starting to hit his stride a little bit more. It's hard to look too much into the game last week because we saw the pass funnel Titans defense that get destroyed by any quarterback. But I think as a whole, I'm sort of buying into this Cleveland offense a little more. And I don't think Baltimore has the firepower to stay in it, especially we have no idea what Rashad Bateman and Odell Beckham's status is. You know, are they going to roll out Zay Flowers, Nelson Aguilar? I mean, I don't know. Against this defense, I don't really know how they're going to get the ball moving. So
Sam was so nice. He was like, what a great, I love all your reasons, Randall, for that. And then he went into it. Clearly, next time on the show, when you come on a second time, there should be more you can take shots at him for sure.
I'll take shots at Meany because he's not here. I can't wait for the last one. That's fine.
Oh yeah, right. Okay, this has been a defensive conversation. It sounds like that's going to be the name of the game going into this weekend. Another defensive domination that we witnessed was in Detroit. Thursday Night Football, the Lions are taking the stage against the Packers. Guys, the Lions had 7 sacks last week. Unreal. Can Jordan Love get it done against this Detroit defense? Randall, what you think?
Yeah, Sam will touch on this game as a whole here. He's got a great pick. I'm going with Amon-Ra St. Brown over 72.5 receiving yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown was my number 3 overall wide receiver to start the year. Nothing that has happened has shaken my confidence. Now, against Green Bay, he did struggle last year, but the year before he had over 109 yards. So I'm not worried about the Packers secondary here. He gets the volume over and over again. Even with the turf toe issue that he has and the steel plate in his foot, how did he start this year? 9 targets, 7 targets, 12 targets, 102 yards in each of the past 2 games. And in that first game, you guys remember on social media, Jared Goff missed him wide open down the middle of the field, which would have put him well over 100 yards and given him a second touchdown. So no one's stopping Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think, Abby, people worry about the matchups a little too much. Justin Jefferson going against Darius Slay, no problem. He went flying over here. I like the volume. Thursday night, short week, 72.5. I'm going over on Amon-Ra St. Brown. Curious to hear what Sam thinks about the side.
What you got, Sam?
Yeah, so I'm going to take the points here with Detroit, minus 1.5 in Green Bay, which is the first time in almost 40 years. That dates back to 1986, so well before my time, when they were minus 2.5 against Randy Wright. I can't tell you anything about Randy Wright, but but when we look at Dan Campbell's tenure since taking over as a coach for the Lions, he's 3-1 straight up against the spread against Green Bay. We saw them eliminate Aaron Rodgers from the postseason in his last game in Detroit. But I think it really goes back to the unsustainability play of Jordan Love this season. In terms of a fantasy producer, he's been absolutely killing it. He's currently first in ADOT, averaging 10.2 yards per attempt, third in the NFL in air yards, which all look great. But then when you look deeper into it, he has a 53.1% completion rate, which is 33 out of 34 QBs that have attempted at least 40 passes this season. That's only one spot ahead of Zach Wilson. 31.5% of his throws this season have been deemed uncatchable, which is the highest rate in the NFL. And he's averaging a touchdown every 93.6 passing yards. In perspective, the league average for quarterbacks this season is a touchdown every 177 passing yards. So you got to think he's going to come crashing down to earth soon. And they can't really hide him with the run game because Detroit has been great against running backs this season. Only 22.1% of rushing attempts against Detroit have gained 5 or more yards, which is the lowest rate in the league. And they're allowing just 2.1 yards per carry to running backs this season. So even if Aaron Jones comes back, I don't think they're going to be able to hide Jordan Love in this matchup. And I think Detroit has been tested more this season. we saw them dismantle Atlanta last week. They traveled to KC in the season opener and they put it to them.
Yeah.
I know they were missing Travis Kelce, but I'm just buying into this Lions offense. I was high on them all off season long, and they haven't really disappointed me yet. They blew that game against Seattle, but when you look at it, they were in control the whole game. We had that interception which was more of a miscommunication with Jahmyr Gibbs, and even Amon-Ra St. Brown, when he went out, he only had one reception for 5 yards the rest of the game. So Josh Reynolds was he was also banged up in the game. So I just think at full strength, it's a pretty big mismatch. So I definitely want to take Detroit here in this divisional matchup. And if you do think Detroit is going to win the game, you can still get them at plus odds right now to win the NFC North. Because I think if they do win this game, it's going to swing massively in their favor because these are going to be the top two right now in the NFC North. So I like taking Detroit right now with the minus 1.5 and get the plus odds on the division.
I love it. I feel like week 4 is like what I talked about at the top. You're trying to like figure out, okay, which teams have really started to forge their identity. And I think Detroit's like the one team that everybody was talking about in the offseason and there was all this hype around them. And they are probably the one team that hasn't disappointed necessarily. Obviously, injuries have helped them out because so many teams have dealt with some significant injuries, but I love where you're at with that one. I've got a Thursday night prop coming out for this game tomorrow. And I'm sure you guys will like it. I don't want to tease it too much, but that Packers offensive line is a little depleted with injuries, speaking of. So that's another advantage for the Lions. Okay, so Randall, what you got next for us?
Yeah, the next one here is going to be Tennessee plus 2.5. My last one against the Bengals. Joe Burrow does not look healthy. And they escaped against the Rams in that game that they absolutely had to have at home. Bengals 19-16 victory. They can't run the ball effectively. Mixon got there with the touchdown for fantasy owners, but 2.9 yards per carry on the ground is not going to cut it. Tennessee struggled this season, but I'm banking on positive regression and historical regression. Titans have been tough under Mike Vrabel at home. They're 10-6 against the spread as home underdogs with 9 outright wins. We saw them beat Kansas City a couple of years ago. They're very tough in this spot. I think Derrick Henry gets rolling against this Bengals rush defense. They entered week 3, 28th in the league in DVOA. The Rams just didn't run the ball with Kyren Williams enough. They decided to attack it. That's not what's going to happen with Tennessee. Get Derrick Henry going. Team at home needs a win with the points. Bengals offensive line still very shaky. Burrow, skepticals, not playing to his best ability, and they can't rush the ball. Check. No chance. Zach Taylor overmatched here against Mike Vrabel. I will take the 2.5 points with the Titans.
Okay, well, Chris Meany is not here to defend himself, nor is he here to support his argument, but he did let us know that he's laying the points for Cincinnati. I could say, I'm trying to think of like how to help Meany out here. Is this the week of Derrick Henry? I don't really know. I feel like he should have shown who he is before now. And then the whole Joe Burrow thing, like I understand, yeah, like is he fully healthy? But they were able to get it done last week, despite him not being fully healthy. Maybe some short passes can help out the Bengals.
That's the Abby. That's the key.
Yeah,
that's the key. If Chris is taking the Bengals and he is going against the Titans from what he's seen, and he believes that Joe Burrow is going to get his way through this game, I get it. I don't agree with it, but that is the angle that you feel the Bengals turned a corner and that the Titans really just aren't ready this year.
He'd have plenty more words for you, I'm sure.
Bring it, of course.
Sam, you got to take a side here. What do you think?
It's so tough. I mentioned earlier, I live I live in Cincinnati, right outside the stadium. And if there's one thing that I've learned is never pick the Bengals. But I do, like I am leaning on I think Cincinnati can cover the minus 2.5 here, just because I don't know how to feel about this Titans team as a whole. But I think I'm going to lean Cincy, but it's honestly just a stay away from me. I'll never touch a game with Cincy involved in it too many times.
All right, Sam, do you have another pick for us? I can't remember.
No, that was it.
That was it for you. All right, Randall, anything else you want to chime in on? I know you were looking at that Rams-Colts game.
Yeah, I do like the Rams in that game. Not an official pick here, but Anthony Richardson coming back, coming off the concussion. This Rams team has looked good.
It's a good
Tutu
topic, yeah.
Yeah, Tutu Atwell, Puka Nakua. I think Kyron Williams gets going again here. I like them. They're going to pressure Richardson again, who is favoring the right side of the field. I do not think that he's going to have a big rushing game. If that's the case, I'll take the Rams. Not an official play, but one of the ones I like as well.
That's fair. Okay, I want to have some fun with this Falcons-Jags game in London. We love a little overseas game, don't we? I'm looking at the under in this one. I was just kind of doing some research. In 2021 and 22, the Jaguars, when they did play in London, both times they hit the under. And we're talking about two teams that I don't even think the Falcons made it into the end zone last week. They had 6 points, and then the Jaguars only scored 17. So you could say, like, in both locker rooms, I'm sure there's pressure on the offenses to kind of make a switch this week. But in a week where you're traveling and you're focused on trying to get overseas and the time change, like, are they really going to have enough time to lock back in when it comes to these teams that obviously had huge struggles on offense last week? So, I'm looking at the under in this one. I feel like this could just be a weird game in general. I feel like these games in London are always kind of weird, but it'll be fun to watch. So I think it could probably go like either way. It's either going to be a shootout or like nobody's going to score.
Yeah, and both those teams are actually 23 and 24 in offensive DVOA. So the numbers aren't great for both offenses. So yeah, I can definitely see this being a barn burner.
Yeah, maybe Kyle Pitts will actually score again, since he only seems to score when he's in London. So let's see if he gets a touchdown.
I have him on my fantasy team, so I need something to happen there because it's not going well. All right, I have one more for you guys. Chiefs at Jets. I want to know what the line is on Taylor Swift being talked about on the broadcast, shown on the broadcast. I'm thinking, like, let's go 6.5. Are we taking the over or under?
6. That's a tough line. That's like right there. 6. Right there. I think 6 is about right. So I'm gonna take a slight under there.
This is not an official line, by the way. I just totally made this up.
Yeah, maybe it will be. Maybe somebody should bet MGM. Somebody should pick this up here. It's an average line, like we did with the Super Bowl. We had an FTM parlay. Yeah,
you hear me.
Oh yeah, and also one honorable mention. I hate ever giving out these kinds of lines. When you parlay the big favorites when it's over a touchdown. But there's some value if you take the Chiefs 49ers, and what's the other big spread? Who is it?
Oh, there's a 5.5 is not. I think that was the Raiders game.
I'm trying to find.
I just felt like that one was big for some reason.
Oh yeah, Philly. It was Chiefs, 49ers, and Philly. So if you parlay those 3 teams, it's minus 130 on DraftKings and it's minus 152 on FanDuel. So I won't ever recommend taking a 3-game money line parlay like that, but if you get some of those free Sunday bets and whatnot, it's way better value on DraftKings than anywhere else I've seen. So
that's good to know because I've been like parlaying like crazy lately, and I've just been suckered into it. Right, I'm like, this is perfect. Like, how could I not hit all 3 of these?
And then Arizona beats Dallas, and
exactly. And then that's where that was what happened to me on Saturday with college football. I went parlay crazy and things didn't go well. So we learned our lesson there, but all right, guys, any final thoughts heading into week 4?
No, that's it. I just want to beat Meanie once, Abby. I just want to beat him once.
Maybe it's this week where he's not here to defend himself and prove his picks. But no, look, this was awesome stuff as always. Sam, we appreciate you joining the show. I'm sure we'll have you on again. Just incredible insight from you. And of course, people can check him out on FTN Bets, FTN Fantasy. But yeah, we'll be here next week to talk about all the madness and craziness yet again, because the season's only getting started. I'm like, it's already week 4, but it's still just the beginning. So thanks as always for joining us on the NFL Betting Show here on FTN Network. For Mike Randle and Sam, I'm not even going to try to say your last name again. I'm Abby Labar. Join us next week.